and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Makbool with you at BTV World. In today's show, we will be taking a look at the visit of the Prime Minister to China, his first official visit to the country since assuming office, and of course an important one after the 20th meeting of the National Congress of the Communist Party of China as well. He's one of the few foreign dignitaries who have visited China after this particular meeting. And of course, in terms of the relationship between Pakistan and China, this particular visit also holds great importance. And then of course, when we take into light what is happening internationally in terms of the kind of crisis that we have seen in terms of economic recession, insecurity with regards to food and other issues, and of course conflict in various parts of the world, and then the post-pandemic era, and of course issues of climate change, this was an important visit. And then also of course on the domestic front, the kind of political and economic issues that Pakistan has been facing for quite some time, especially in the wake of the devastating floods as well. This is of course an important visit in terms of what can happen in this particular relationship and the way that it can impact Pakistan in these challenging times. Of course, China is the all-weather strategic partner of China, and it has stood by Pakistan in previous challenging times as well. And so of course, we expect the same at this time around too. But in terms of how we're going to proceed forward, especially with regards to bilateral engagement, focusing on trade and investment ties between the two countries and expanding the CPEC project is what of course is going to be the focus of the discussion. In this particular visit, the meeting between the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Chinese President Xi Jinping is of course an important one in terms of how the two countries and two leaders are going to take this particular relationship forward. There is of course discussion regarding CPEC and the way that the second phase is going to be ushered in, and what the focus is going to be on the partnership between the two countries. There is also discussion by the Prime Minister with regards to Chinese investment in renewable energy projects, particularly the government's decision of 10,000 megawatt solar and other renewable energy projects within the country, in which the Prime Minister said the Chinese companies showed an encouraging response. He also urged the Chinese investors and businessmen that he also met today to invest in Pakistan, and particularly with the focus of renewable energy, wind turbines and other issues. There is of course also the impact that the technological advancements and export of technologies with regards to agriculture and other areas in Pakistan will particularly help Pakistan. Especially, there was also discussion with regards to the exporting of technology for a 160 kilometer per hour high-speed railway train to Pakistan. And there is of course other projects related to CPEC as well that is under discussion. In that, we also of course know that the Mainland 1 railway upgrading project and the Karachi Circular Railway project also hold a lot of importance. We're going to be taking a look at all of these particular projects, and in terms of the number of MOUs that have been signed, how exactly are we going to proceed with this particular engagement. And of course, the kind of hindrances and obstacles that Pakistan or the CPEC project has earlier faced. The Prime Minister, of course, once again gave a lot of reassurances in terms of what is going to happen, and in terms of course, how we're going to be able to provide those security guarantees that are much needed in the CPEC related projects, and then of course to be able to sustain this partnership moving forward as well. There is also an important MOU that was mentioned, which was between the National Bank of Pakistan and also the People's Bank of China, in which a number of areas were discussed, particularly with regards to facilitating cross-border transactions, and that is going to be important, especially when we talk about business-related engagements. There is also water storage in Karachi, whose willingness the Prime Minister expressed with regards to the federal and the provincial governments as well, and in cooperation with, of course, the Chinese partners. So we're going to take an overall look at what this visit meant and how exactly will this be a success for Pakistan in the times to come as well. For this and more, as always, I've been joined in the studios by senior analyst Farrukh Patafi and Raja Faisal. And we've also been joined online by Mariam Raza, who's the Deputy Director, Pakistan Research Center for Community with Shared Future. And then, of course, we're also going to be joined by Zoon Ahmed Khan, Fellow Center for China and Globalization, who will be joining us in the middle of the show. Let me start with you, Ms. Mariam, considering, of course, what is happening in terms of what Pakistan has been going through, especially with regards to the economic challenges that the country has been facing, and then of course the political ones too, and then how the international landscape is evolving. This particular relationship holds a lot more importance than just in terms of the historic context in which we've seen Pakistan and China evolve in the past. considering this particular visit by the Prime Minister and in the time that we are seeing it happen, the focus on trade and investment is, of course, very, very important. How do you see the kind of discussions that we have seen between the Prime Minister and the Chinese President be able to sustain themselves, and how exactly do you think that we're going to be able to follow through with all of this, and how we're going to see them evolve for an economic benefit for the country?
Yes, thank you so much. I would like to say that first of all, the visit that has been conducted recently has happened in the most crucial time, with relevance to the regional landscape, changing socio-economic and political developments which have been going on, and obviously with relevance to China and Pakistan relation when it comes to enhancing collaboration in CPAC and other projects as well. So I think. With regards to changing the regional socio-economic dynamics, we have been seeing about the Quad, about the UCOSTIN, and other many other new happenings that have been going on recently. So under this regard, in this context, I think the recent visit is very much important. It is a clear and loud message to the world that Pakistan and China are, iron brother, and they have a lot of good relationship when it comes to CPEC and other areas. So I think in this visit, there are a lot of different MOUs that have been signed in different fields with relevance to, when it comes to IT, when it comes to research and development, when it comes to economic empowerment and all that. So the major aspect or the major pillar which I would say that it is with regard to China Pakistan economic corridor. Obviously when it comes to the bilateral meetings and the other MOUs, they all are linked with this mega project. So when we say that, obviously the CPAC is a game changer project, or CPAC is a biggest flagship project of Belt and Road Initiative. So obviously there is certain areas that which we need to look on. Obviously since the last few years, CPAC has been now entering into second phase, and there is a need to match with the pace, because during the bilateral meetings as well, our PM, he has assured Chinese leadership that we are going to look upon the security condition as well for the Chinese worker, and also enhance our industrial development. So obviously when it comes to economic empowerment or enhancing your socio-economic landscape and other developments, so this visit has huge, it holds a lot of volume, because this is the
Right,
first
no,
of.
and I understand that, of course, the CPEC related projects are of utmost importance to the country, but particularly now that we are in the second phase, and there is, of course, a lot of emphasis in terms of how we proceed. There is, of course, the question of the kind of discussions that we've seen between the two leaders and to how we want to see them actually play out. Farooq, when we take a look particularly at the kind of focus that we've seen this time around, it seems to be on renewable energy, on agriculture and technology. And a lot of this, of course, is important to the country as well in terms of being able to incorporate that with regards to the kind of issues that we are facing, especially when we take a look at the kind of projects that the Prime Minister pitched with regards to the 10,000 megawatts as well, or others in the sector of renewable energy. There is, of course, an encouraging response, but we don't know if that is going to be able to be followed up with an actual commitment, or we're going to be seeing some sort of investment coming into the country. How likely do you think that post this visit we're going to be seeing the kind of engagement that we want to see from Chinese investors and businessmen?
Right, Sana, that is a good question. While you were talking about all this, I was really pondering over the impact that 10,000 megawatt solar energy project can actually bring to the table. I think that as far as I know, the Prime Minister invited our Chinese peers, particularly the companies, to come and invest, and that invitation was accepted. Similarly, when you talk about CPEC, there's one culmination point that is very important, and I've been agitating that for quite some time, especially since I've returned from Gawada. I mentioned the state of affairs there, particularly the airport at this moment looks like a bus station, a very small bus station. There is an under construction airport that is being built by the Chinese companies, And the great news is that that project is going to be accelerated. Its harnessing time or its yielding time was next somewhere at the end of next year, but it is going to be hastened and it will be done as quickly as possible. So that is also great news, and I think that most of the projects, I'm sure that you were talking about MOUs and all that, whether that is going to culminate into something substantial. The Chinese way of doing business is not to actually telegraph it to the world. They actually agree with the principle, they sign an MOUs, and then the investment and the companies start coming. One sticky point was Pakistan's, money that Pakistan had to actually pay to the Chinese companies already, and Prime Minister actually cleared that thing up as well, that 160 billion was paid, and then only yesterday 50 billion rupees were also paid once again. So that also clears the berth for a lot of more engagement, and that is going to actually rejuvenate the enthusiasm of Chinese companies.
Absolutely. Faisal, when we take a look at, of course, the kind of history that the CPEC projects have had, there is, of course, a lot of concern in terms of delays or security concerns that the Prime Minister also addressed and said that these are the assurances that Pakistan is going to be providing, and that he's sorry for the loss of the Chinese men and women. And then when we take a look, of course, moving forward, there was a lot of discussion even yesterday in terms of how exactly will Pakistan be able to provide support to these projects and be able to sustain them and provide the kind of environment that is needed for this to continue. So, of course, the starting point from this particular visit is great, and there's a lot of good news coming in. But in terms of being able to follow through, that sort of always is the important end after such meetings. Do you think that we've sort of taken care of in terms of the strategy or policy or way forward as to how we're going to now be able to implement what has been discussed?
Sana, very good question. And first of all, obviously, yesterday we did highlight this, that of course we have hindrances when it comes to getting into minute details of CPEC. Different projects, they were facing problems just because of reasons related to not having one window operation, and there were hindrances. I think this government it has reassured the Chinese investors about all of that. Of course, there will be one window operation, a quick one that can be provided to the Chinese investors, and it would of course boost the investment from China. At the same time, this visit, to me, it is very important. Looking at the statement coming out from President Xi, who has actually said that he will be helping Pakistan in taking care of Pakistan's obviously economic vulnerabilities as well.
Pakistan's economic stability.
Yeah, and he is willing to help Pakistan to stabilize its economy, number one, and number two, on the strategic matters as well, he has reassured Pakistan. And we know that in past as well, President Xi time and again assured Pakistan that all of the challenges which are being faced by Pakistan, they do consider them challenges as part of their own, because we know that the brotherly relation we have with China in recent past, it has strengthened more, and I believe it is going to strengthen ever more in coming future. A very important point is 10,000 megawatt. Of course, it would help Pakistan to stabilize its economy, especially if the investment is coming towards the solar projects. Why I say this? Because a large chunk of our domestic production, it was relying on obviously the energy resource, and the energy resource was being filled in with the diesels and fuel costs, and that was costing a huge amount of import bill to Pakistan's economy, and that burden can be loosened a bit, which can of course stabilize Pakistan's economy, number one. Number two, after taking care of our own needs, who knows, maybe in coming future we are able to export our electricity to neighboring countries like Afghanistan, or maybe in coming future to the Central Asian republics as well. So hopes are alive, and future of Pakistan's economy, it can be considered as a good one.
Okay, great. That's good news. Let us also welcome in the debate Zoon Ahmed Khan, Fellow Center for China and Globalization. Thank you very much, Zoon, for joining us in the debate. We're, of course, talking about the Prime Minister's recent visit to China that has concluded earlier today. And in terms of course, the kind of emphasis that has been on CPEC, what sort of a follow-up will be to this particular visit, and how soon are we going to be seeing any sort of impact on the economic situation in the country, since of course that has been one of our largest concerns since the start of this year. So when we understand the kind of engagement that has existed in the past between China and Pakistan, we of course understand that China gives a lot of importance and priority to Pakistan, something that has been mentioned by the Prime Minister himself as well, that there has been special interest. And we've seen the way that they have dealt with the CPEC projects in the past, and carried forward with the kind of commitments that have been there. But now, of course, when we take a look at the challenging times internationally as well, and the kind of situation that exists within Pakistan, and then, of course, in broader terms, the kind of importance that the CPEC holds itself, how do you think this is going to be looked at by the Chinese investors and businessmen, especially in the second phase, and how readily do you think that the Chinese investors and businessmen can actually take part in the kind of sectors that are being discussed, especially when it comes to technology in agriculture and renewable energy?
There's so much that I want to address in the very, very well articulated and well rounded question that you've posed. So, firstly, obviously, it's a privilege to be here. I'll start with saying that, yes, indeed, when Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif was elected, let's go back to that time. And people in China remember Shehbaz's speed. They remember the Punjab speed that was possible during 2015 to 2018, when we were looking at the first phase of CPEC. Now, of course, a few years have passed, and it's a time, like you mentioned, there are many global challenges. COVID-19 pandemic being one of them. The world has been in a kind of recession. It's been a global recession, a global challenge, and that has impacted, obviously, the speed at which we were expecting infrastructure development further to complete the first phase, but also to attract businesses. That said, we know that the China-Pakistan partnership is all weather, and that's not just rhetoric, it is the reality. Right now, when Prime Minister has been to China and such a high-level delegation, the priority is to, of course, jumpstart the priority transportation projects as well, renewable energy, agriculture, but also to understand from the Chinese business perspective, the Chinese business mindset, what is it that they're looking for? What kind of policies, what kind of incentives, what kind of long-term planning we can exhibit to them that makes Pakistan an even more attractive investment destination. Another thing, being here in China for this many years, and especially in the last few years and months, I have met many Chinese people, from businesses to even institutions, to foundations, to universities, to organizations that are working on renewable energy and renewable research, agriculture experts that are seeking tangible opportunities in Pakistan. For them, this visit, we're saying whether there will be a result. What I'm telling you is that as soon as we have a document, a statement, a proper plan, which Pakistan has already expressed to the Chinise side, there is a plethora of partners waiting to work together with Pakistan.
Absolutely. And that is, Zoon, that is heartening to hear. And I'm really glad that you're joining us from on ground there. Let me ask you another question. Whenever we talk about CPEC and this fresh round of CPEC, we keep on hearing about moving beyond G2G cooperation, and you just brought up the issue of their enthusiasm. The question is, when we are actually talking about B2B, is there any kind of interaction between Chinese businessmen and Pakistani companies taking place or not? Because at this moment, I understand that the Prime Minister met their businesses, but when are our businesses meeting them?
Our businesses have met them. So over these years, I mean, even during COVID-19, let's go back to pre-COVID, when a number of roadshows were taking place, Pakistani business delegations, I was very honored to be able to be part the organizations hosting a few of those delegations. Chinese media organizations have also invited Pakistani businessmen to come and have deeper immersion and interactions with Chinese counterparts. And during COVID-19, we had multiple online activities to have those B2B connectivity, those contact points to establish links. I think businesses on both sides need to be proactive. China and Pakistan both opportunities. When you look at businesses in other countries, they have been engaging with Chinese businesses for many decades. For us, I think post pre 2015, pre CPEC, we know we had multiple challenges. In fact, the country was deindustrializing at a certain
Right.
point
So
because of
can we
economic issues.
see
But that
any
said,
new
may
JVs
I add?
taking place in coming
Yes,
days,
please.
joint ventures in coming days?
That is a better way to move forward. I think what we want is both business communities and the government to maybe co create, co understand opportunities. Pakistani businesses, like any other, can be as proactive to engage partners that are Chinese. But another aspect we need to understand is that for Pakistani businesses, we want to export to China. For that, we want to improve. So, why we are talking about agriculture, why we are talking about manufacturing, why are we talking about technology transfer? So that Pakistani businesses can upgrade in a way to be able to export not only to China alone, but to other countries in the world. And for Chinese businesses, it is important for the Prime Minister to meet them because we are expecting Chinese businesses to relocate their factories, their setups to Pakistan. It is a different nature for both sides, for businesses on both sides to be involved. For Pakistanis, the conversation is going to be between upgrading themselves, finding joint venture possibilities to upgrade their capacity, to improve, to understand what is it that the Chinese market wants. And there's so much we can export to China. How can we get there? What are the processes? What are the steps we can follow?
Very right,
Let's have
very
Chinese
right.
partners.
Zoon, you're very right about it. And of course, there are lots of things which Pakistan and China, with the cooperation, we can do a lot. And if
Yes.
we look at today's statement by President Xi, he categorically said that we need to further strengthen our strategic partnership as well. I would like to go towards Mariam. When we talk about strengthening a strategic partnership, we know that in recent past and since a long time we have had a very good partnership, strategic partnership with the Chinese, and of course in the defense sector as well. Are we seeing that getting increased income in future? And in this particular visit, is there something which we can expect from the Chinese side coming to Pakistan once more? We know last time we had J-10Cs.
Yes, I believe that when you say that China and Pakistan they are iron brothers or they have all weather strategic partnerships. So obviously there are a lot of dimensions and there are a lot of aspects that we need to look on. And in this regard, military and defense sector is one of the major importance. So I think that this visit, when it comes to other dimensions that we have talked on, I think talking about on military and strategic enhancement of relations are also important, and I think that it will enhance in future when it comes to this overall security situation, whatever the scenario is, whether it's for CPAC, for other economic development project, or for Pakistan and China bilateral defense relations. So when it comes to the specific project of CPAC, yes, there are a lot of possibilities. There are a lot of prospects for enhancing the defense and strategic partnership, and I think that this was one of the agenda included in the discussion, that how and what are the opportunities and how we can enhance our cooperation in different fields. So yes, this is one of the major aspect, and which is very important when it comes to enhancing economic empowerment, even because when there is industrial cooperation, when we need to enhance our services sector, so this security situation comes first, because and also it was also part of the discussion that we will provide security, and it will ensure that we will look towards the security of Chinese workers working in Pakistan. So I think yes, this is a major aspect.
Right. Zoon, of course, one of the major concerns that has been there in terms of any sort of hindrance to the CPEC projects was, of course, the security concern as well, which Pakistan, of course, has provided assurances for. But I also want to understand in terms of the way that this is now being perceived and understood by the Chinese people at large, by the investors and the business community. Do you think that they have any of these concerns left as well, or any others with regards to investing in Pakistan and coming to the country? Since, of course, we are dealing with the security issues, but of course, the kind of assurances that Pakistan has given are there, and of course, we stand by them. But I want to understand what the perception is in terms of the people at large and the business community.
Well, number one, I'll say that in terms of perceptions about the overall sentiment that Pakistan and I would say, the feeling in not only for Pakistan's people, but also government towards China, that we are really trying our best is there. Chinese people realize that when those incidents have happened, they've occurred, of course. I think I was on the program here as well, talking about how they understand that there is geostrategic factors in play, and there are many countries, many stakeholders that are trying to threaten China from different pressure points. So they understand, Chinese people, Chinese government, they obviously understand that this is part of that unfortunate conspiracy plan to divide the world and to inhibit China's further engagement with the world. That said, I think what we do need to do is create, obviously, make businesses realize that Pakistan can provide better security, and this is also something that was well communicated by the embassy and by the Prime Minister. That this is a top priority. So maybe we can further cooperate and make sure that we have better systems to ensure the safety of Chinese nationals, and that will boost the confidence. The best part is that Chinese trust Pakistan, they trust Pakistanis, they realize the complications that are being created strategically, and we need to obviously build with them together. We, Chinese and Pakistanis, and together ensure better security. And we want Chinese people to feel safe and uninhibited in a way when they come to Pakistan. Like Pakistanis should feel safe, our people should also feel safe.
Right.
So, I think gradually we are getting there. Yeah.
Right. I totally understand how a security situation or perceptions or misperceptions about that might be shaping the attitude coming from the Chinese investors. But whenever we talk about any projects or their potential in future tense, the concern is that the project, CPEC, has been there for quite some time. Why is it that we haven't been able to explore why the Chinese companies haven't already started organically investing in Pakistan? I understand that in infrastructure they have, but who is actually our businesses, if they are actually interacting with the Chinese businesses? Where is the fireworks? Why is it that a country that needs so much investment, right now I'm talking about Pakistan, and so much potential, and a country which is so committed to investing in the entire world, why are they not producing the kind of synergy that we should have seen in past 6-7 years? Zoon.
My view is that CPEC is not a machine that obviously we're importing from China, that it is it's unchangeable, it's unmovable. It is an idea, essentially. And it is an idea based on Pakistan and any other country's prerequisites to boost itself, to benefit from its natural capacity, and to engage its people. The first phase was to make us capable of attracting industry. The industry we lost, and much more than that. We have a young population to cater to. So CPEC is an idea to make Pakistan more attractive. Second question is our plan, are the policies, are the incentives we are providing in our special economic zone for international investors, including Chinese, are they matching up to other countries and the incentives that they are providing? Are we giving a stable business economic policy? Are we able to provide the kind of environment that will make an investor feel, okay, I can picture myself for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And I think here, both sides have a role to play. The Chinese, they obviously can explore more proactively the opportunities in Pakistan. as we all know, that in 2020 onwards, we've had a COVID-19, which has inhibited and limited the ease with which investors from China and other countries were going overseas. This is a fact. And at the same time, for Pakistan, we need to also attract investors. And I think this is why the Prime Minister meeting the businesses is important, because for investors, the policies matter, not just the partners on the ground, but the policies and the extent to which a government says that we will make it work. Try to gauge what is it that they are looking for. Try to gauge what other countries that are potential competitors are offering. And this is
Right,
why
and
this
absolutely
meeting
that
is
is
very
important, and of course
and
there is
another
a lot
thing,
of
if I may
responsibility.
quickly, may I
Yes,
quickly
yes, go
add?
ahead.
I'll take 30 seconds. China's reform and opening up happened over 40 years and counting. There are parts of China that are still backward and that are still developing. CPEC was not going to become a success overnight. We have seen setbacks, we have seen challenges, and the best part is that we have tried to collectively address those challenges. This is part of any country's developmental journey. So we could not and cannot expect CPEC to become a spectacular success in the based on the first idea. It is going to be a medium and long term plan, which it is. And let's say that Pakistan is, based on CPEC project, much ahead, in a much better position to attract investments and to engage its people in a constructive way than it was without. So this is my opinion.
Right, absolutely, and of course that is truly important. But Faisal, when we take a look at the CPEC, and Azun was saying, this is of course something that involves not just Pakistan but other countries as well, and then the entire region is going to be impacted by the kind of benefits there is. And of course the concerns also are perhaps not just limited to the country, they're also in the region as well. Considering how, of course, when we take a look at this particular project and how it's going to impact the regional environment as well, how much further in terms of expansion and in terms of incorporating more partners or more players into this project can this particular area be looked at by Pakistan, and what sort of a proactive role do you think that Pakistan can actually play in terms of expanding this in partnership with China?
Of course, Sana, Pakistan would be playing a pivotal role in it. When we talk about expansion of CPEC or expansion of China's reach to the region, of course, Pakistan plays an amazing role, and especially looking at Pakistan's opportunities to reach to Central Asian republics, I think it's an ample opportunity for Pakistan as well as China equally. Of course, we know that it would go through CPEC can be connected to Central Asian republics and ending up to Russia through Afghanistan. And for that, of course, both of the countries, China and Pakistan, they have better understanding over it, number one. And number two, both of them, they have concerns over security. And we know that the majority of the threats that are raising for the security of CPEC, they are originating from Afghanistan, and China and Pakistan, both of them, they are aware of it. When we talk about security of CPEC, and in the recent past, whatever the incidents were taking place, we very well know that there are foreign elements that are involved in creating hindrances in terms of creating chaos for the CPEC itself. And we know our eastern neighbor India has been trying for a long time. We have the evidences. Kulbhushan Jadhav is one of them, who's been actively participating in these sort of activities to sabotage CPEC, number one. And number two, of course, in current scenario, the current regime sitting in Afghanistan knows it and has realized that CPEC is the game changer, not only for Pakistan or China, it is the game changer for the region itself. And when we talk about region, they can take benefit out of it as well, because if CPEC could be connected to Central Asian republics, of course it would go through Afghanistan, and of course it would help improve infrastructure of Afghanistan and create more opportunities for people of Afghanistan, and of course it would bring an excellent effect to their economy as well. So it's a win-win situation for all of the regional countries, and a very bad situation for the countries in the region who have done no good to the region, They have just created hindrances in past, and once for all, they need to be fixed.
Right. And Farooq, you can add to this, but I'm also coming to you with another question. So when we take a look at, of course, the kind of issues or the kind of areas that Pakistan can actually work on to make this a more business-friendly environment, there was also, of course, the impact of financial transactions and, of course, especially cross-border transactions. And there is the reference in this visit to this MOA, which has been signed between the National Bank of Pakistan and also the People's Bank of China in terms of actually providing that sort of avenue. How exactly do you think that this is going to impact the kind of issues that the business community may have faced or can face in the future as well? And do you think that this can be broadened into perhaps more comprehensive collaboration between the financial institutions of both the countries?
Right, and that is a valid question, Sana. But allow me to first
Yes,
go back
please.
to what Faisal was saying. I have a serious concern about us actually overselling something that hasn't, a shop that hasn't even started functioning. The biggest problem I remember when the USSR collapsed. At that time, I'm sure that Faisal must be very young, but I was following all these developments with bated breath, and we were actually commenting on this as well. The concern at that time was, actually the interest was that now we are going to have access to Central Asia. And then the discussion was how quickly can we get pipelines. 20 years on, over 20, actually 30 years on, we haven't seen much progress on those projects. If you want to keep on expanding the projects or keep talking about it, it is your choice. Whenever you overmarket something, there will be people who are naysayers and who will try to actually bring the project down. So the best thing at this moment, A, we have already committed to the idea of north-south trade. Now what we have to do is actually focus on building synergy by also creating a east-west route, right? A corridor. India, Central Asia, all of that. The biggest problem is because we keep on confusing all of this with strategy and so-called strategy, so to speak. We keep on alienating more people rather than creating our own avenues. First, attend to the commitments you have made with China, with your own people, how effectively CPEC is going to take off. Once it takes off, any running business can attract enough investment or enough interest for everywhere that people will want to be part of it. Why is it that China and India keep on trading despite actually shelling at each other as well? The only reason is because they see convergences. So that is crucial. First, attend to what you have to do here, and then we can talk about Afghanistan, which still needs to be stabilized, and Central Asia, which still needs to know how exactly to tap its market. Now, talking about cooperation between financial systems, it takes me back to the time when Euro was launched. And at that time, there was this discussion again of decoupling or having two worlds, one particularly dollar dominated, the other one euro zone or euro dominated. But then we saw that finally they actually started converging. It is important when Pakistan and China are trading that we actually trade also in RMB. That means our financial institutions work in close coordination and that we don't drop the ball. I think the government of Pakistan is cognizant of that, and we have created the avenue. We are going to expand it as soon as possible.
Brilliant.
Right. Azul, another aspect that we have been discussing with regards to CPEC is, of course, how exactly to go about it and what sort of authorities are actually going to look after the project. And of course, there was the CPEC authority, and then later that wasn't there anymore. But in terms of what is perhaps the way forward, or what sort of a mechanism has benefited or can likely benefit the engagement with the Chinese business community, what sort of an impact have you felt with regards to the presence or absence of an authority who's solely looking after this project?
I think in the end, for instance, let's go back a few years when actually the JCC mechanism was perceived as quite an exemplary one in the Belt and Road Forum of 2017 and then 2019 as one that's able to allow a holistic coordination between the Planning and Development Commission and the NDRC of China. This is the kind of mechanism that many countries under Belt and Road lack. And actually, it's a mechanism that did achieve a lot of planning, a lot of successful planning and execution on the G2G level. Another aspect is more localized cooperation and coordination. I completely agree with our previous speaker when we say that we are looking on a big scale, big strategy, region, this, that. Of course, it's part of a long term perspective and long term plan. But in the end, from my perspective, CPEC, like China's own mindset, is a pragmatic project. It's a project that's aimed at problem solving. And what are those problems? That's a development issue. It's a problem of how can we make lives of our people in Pakistan better. If there's one thing that unites the global community, is the Sustainable Development Goals. It's making people's lives better. So, in that light, the kind of cooperation and coordination that will be more successful is localized. So, you have sister cities, you have villages in China that want to work with villages in Pakistan that have similar circumstances and find those solutions that are going to work for those localized entities. Partner special economic zones with each other that have similar circumstances. Partner ports with each other that have similar circumstances. China's development, for people who have visited here, for people who have observed this country, know that there is a united vision all over the country. But the solutions, the progress, the process, and the specific factors that have made China a successful country have all been very localized. So my view, make it very, very localized partnerships, very localized cooperation. Make a committee. Okay, we want to learn from China's poverty alleviation drive. What
Yeah.
is that? It's multiple factors. It's agriculture. It's education. It's tourism. It's so many factors coming together. Partner the villages. Help them understand how they can learn from each other. And we have these
Exactly.
initiatives happening, which Pakistan is also a part of. So
That's a
localized
great answer.
partnership and cooperation.
Exactly. Mariam Zoon has highlighted the excellent points, and especially if we talk about agriculture, if, of course, we know that China is a country with obviously a massive population. It is not only feeding itself, but it is to some extent exporting food items as well to the world. How? Because they are using a very up to date, updated technology for their agriculture to enhance their production. We have a lot to learn from China. Would you please shed some light on it? What are the aspects of agriculture we need to obviously learn from China to increase our products as well, to meet our bread needs, and to meet our challenges, the economic challenges as well, by exporting our food to the neighboring countries?
Yes, well, when we talk about China and when we talk about learning from their governance model and their development, so there are many aspects that we need to look on. When it comes to agricultural corridors or when it comes to different other sectors that Masoon has already pointed out, when it comes to IT, when it comes to research and development, or when it comes to other aspect which will include people to people connectivity. And obviously when we are talking about corridors, so it's not just about enhancing bilateral relation between two countries, but also it has implication for the region and beyond. So when we are talking about agriculture sector, I think within Belt and Road Initiative, within BRI country or within BRI region, agriculture connectivity or food security is one of the major aspects that we need to work on and we need to talk upon, because when it comes to learning from China, we have in past we have seen that how what have we learned from major powers, our relation with major powers when it comes to US or when it comes to Russia for a brief time, Soviet, and now China. But China is different in many of the areas, in many of the vision. China is different. For example, US, they have their seed labs, they have their center established in which they are doing research through latest technological advancement on different aspects, because food security is something that is what that we will be needing in coming times. We need to build, we need to establish corridor within the corridor when it comes to food security. We have seen what has happened in Pakistan in the recent floods. We have seen that how, the human biggest human catastrophe. So the food supply chain has been disrupted. If we have capability, we have potential, we need to enhance our capability, and by learning from China. Obviously, when it comes to CPAC, there are many aspects, and food security and food establishing food corridor is one of the major. Especially, we have a lot of population to cater to. And when it comes to learning from new technological advancement and research and development, seed and different food related aspects, so it is not just to adopt from China, but to adapt to the changes, the new development that has been going on. So I would
Right.
I think my firm last saying would be that this is a very important area. Apart from just learning, we need to implement so many things. We have our universities, they are working on hybrid seeds, they are working on so many good developments which we need to highlight, we need to project along with taking expert guidance from Chinese. Yes,
Excellent.
that
Right,
would be.
absolutely. And yes, Farooq, your concluding remarks were really
Right,
out of
I
time.
just wanted to actually, by listening to both our guests and of course both of you as well, I actually reached three conclusions very quickly. Number one, regarding being a good, businessman, satisfy one customer first rather than getting scattered between 1,000, right? Instead of thinking about so many other neighbors and so many business opportunities, the one that has come knocking at the door, please first focus on that. The second one that Zoon actually talked about, bottom up. Instead of actually going the usual route when you talk about centralized projects and trying to control everything from the center, empower the local governments, local businesses, and ask them to twin with Chinese companies. And the third one is we need a whole of nation approach, all hands on the deck. Without that, it is not going to take out that convenience.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and we hope that we realize the importance of this particular project and this relationship and the kind of impact that it's going to have, and we actually follow by all of that and be able to take out as much as we can from this and more. Thank you very much, Mariam Raza and Zoon Ahmed Khan, for joining us, and of course, Farooq and Faisal for being with me on the show. This particular visit has concluded, but the engagement with China is going to remain, and we hope that it's going to bring in economic prosperity soon, and that we're able to see CPEC come to the great heights that, of course, it has the potential for, and that it currently also benefits the people who are part of this particular project, and then also in the coming days, the entire nation as well. That's all that we have from the debate. See you tomorrow.